In order to have a Metahuman use the facial performance data being tracked and streamed by Faceware Studio, we'll need to configure a Metahuman in Unreal Engine to receive that data and apply the data to the facial controls. In this module, we'll go through an example using our example project and apply the data to our Metahuman from this example project. Once you've opened the example project, it is important to also make sure that you have installed the Glassbox Live Client plugin and activated it for your engine. In my case, I can use the Settings button here in the toolbar, choose Plugins, and search for the word Live. And that should filter me so that I can see the Live Client plugin easily and that it is indeed enabled in my case. With that verified, you'll also want to ensure that you've installed and copied the Motion Logic folder from the download link provided in the Faceware Studio installation instructions for Metahumans. This Motion Logic folder contains assets and control curves that help translate the data coming from Faceware Studio into the control curve data necessary for operating a Metahuman face. With those two applied, we can go ahead and begin setting up a Metahuman blueprint so that it is ready to receive data from Faceware Studio. In this project, under the Metahumans folder, we have two Metahumans available, Danielle and Nassim. We'll go ahead and use Danielle, so I'll double-click on her folder. And we find that we have a blueprint class set up for Danielle that is the default blueprint class for a Metahuman that's been installed into this project. In order to configure a version of this that is prepared for receiving data from Faceware Studio, we'll duplicate this existing blueprint. So select the blueprint, Control W to duplicate, and we'll rename the copy in a way that lets us know that it's set up to receive data from Faceware Studio. So I'm just going to use my right arrow to go to the end of this name. I'll delete the 1 and just simply add an underscore FWS for Faceware Studio and hit enter. And now our renamed blueprint copy is set up so that it is BP Danielle underscore FWS, so that we know that this blueprint is set up to receive data from Faceware Studio. Control S to save. And now we're ready to configure this blueprint so that it's ready to receive data. We'll double-click to open up the blueprint window. We'll need to add a component here that is the Faceware Live component. So we'll click on the Add button here, type in the word Face to filter our view, and find the Faceware Live component. We'll select that, and that is now added to our Metahuman blueprint. Selecting this component in our Metahuman blueprint, we can go over to the details and look for Faceware and configuration and ensure that the IP address is the correct IP address. In this case, 127.0.0.1. This is the universal IP address for the current computer that we're working on. And indeed, Faceware Studio is running on this computer. I can use Control-Tab to go back to my Faceware Studio window and see that it is running, it is tracking and streaming the data, and in the streaming port we can verify that we're streaming out port 802. Control-Tab back to Unreal Engine, and we see that port 802 is configured, so we're all set for this particular Metahuman. This can be adjusted for individual actors on a Metahuman level. So if we wanted to have different copies of Faceware Studio running on different machines driving different Metahumans, we would simply vary the IP address for each of the Metahumans in the level at the actor stage so that we could have each of the actors receiving facial performance from a different running copy of Faceware Studio. So with our Faceware Live component configured, now we simply have to set up the facial component so that it is ready to receive that data and apply it to the face of the Metahuman. So by clicking on the face component and looking over here at details, we see that animation is configured to use the animation mode use animation blueprint. And I'll just expand this a little bit here. And the animation class selected is face NMBP_C. This is the default for new Metahumans, but we will be choosing a different blueprint class for the use of our Faceware Studio data. So we'll click this drop down. Again, type in the word face to filter our view. And here we're finding the animation blueprint FW Metahuman face. So this is an animation blueprint set up to process the data from Faceware for the Metahuman face. We'll select that. And finally compile and save all of our changes. And now this Metahuman blueprint is set up to receive data from Faceware Studio. Let's close this window. We'll click and drag to add Danielle to our level, making sure, of course, that we were using the FWS version of her. I'll tap the F key to fill the frame with her. And using the E key, we'll select the rotation tool and turn her into the light towards the camera. And finally, we'll want to see the Metahuman data playing out on her face. To do this, we're going to put our editor into simulate mode. So in the toolbar over here, just to the right of the play button, we'll click this drop down and choose simulate. And now we retain all of the functionality of the editor, but we're also running all of our blueprints in simulation mode. So now I can see that Danielle is performing the facial performance that is being tracked by Faceware Studio. We can bring Faceware Studio here, and we can see that. Let's maybe reduce this, and here we are. So there is Faceware Studio tracking our video, and the Metahuman performing the resulting Faceware track.